G'day! Are you a fan of the 50mm focal length? Well, quite possibly it was the second lens you ever owned after the kit, or at least it was touted that it should be. Now I'll say right off the bat that I'm a huge fan of the 50mm. I've pretty much always had a 50mm, and I do use it reasonably often, although maybe not quite as often as I could. Look, it's undeniably the best lens, and feel free to deny it if you can, for capturing the scene in its most true dimensions. And by that I mean it captures it in the most natural way, but also adds an element of magic to it. So for that, it makes the 50mm an essential lens to have in your kit, or at least to own. Another thing I really love about the 50mm is its versatility. You know, it's a little bit wide, it's a little bit tight. It kind of jumps between the wide and the tight focal lengths. And so that makes it a handy lens to run about with, because you know you're kind of going to be able to get all the shots you need in your travels. However, that amazing benefit is also its most major downfall, and I call it the 50mm blind spot. What I mean by that is at times it can be too long, not wide enough, too wide, not long enough. Often when I'm out shooting with the 50mm, it's because I've tossed up between like the 35 and the 85, and I've compromised because I can't decide whether to go wide or tight. And look, it is a good choice to have, but I find that it's also important not to create false references that are influenced by your past experiences. And what I mean by this is when I think back to the shots that I've captured in the wide sense of the 50mm where it's actually been good, or where it's been perfectly tight when I've needed to be tight, it influences my decisions about when I'm going to shoot with it next. But hey, I'm going to jump over this because in reality, every shooting situation is vastly different. But the main problem I have with the 50mm is, you know, when I need it to be tight, it's not quite tight enough. And when I need it to be wide, it's not quite wide enough. And it is basically because the fact that the 50mm bisects the wide and the tight focal ranges, it sort of just dabbles around the edges. It doesn't do either of them particularly well. Oh look, hey, I better mention that I am talking about full frame here. It's APS-C. The crop factor extends it out to around about 80mm, and that's well into the tight side. The thing is, it is easy to be colored by your previous experience with a lens. And hey, the situations I'm talking about is when you want it to be wide but it's too tight. I'll come back to that one. There's other times when you want it to be tight and it's too wide. Now on this point, that's like shooting cats and dogs and birds and things you can't get physically any closer to, like maybe a bird on a rock while you're at the water's edge. If we jump back to situations where you want it to be wider and it's too tight, we do know the 50mm can be a wide lens on a full frame camera with plenty of distance to your subject or to your landscape or whatever you're shooting. But sometimes, like in indoor situations, I'll be looking at a scene and I'll visualize what I think the 50mm is going to overlay on that scene. But when I put the camera to my eye, it's way tighter. Look, that's my flaw, but I'm sure if I've had that experience, you may have too. What I tend to do now is try and make a call whether to go wide or tight and carry the other lens. So if I've got the 85 on, I might go for a 24 or a 35 in my pocket. Or if I've got the 24 or the 35 on, I might go for an 85 in my pocket. And you know, based on that, the 50mm usually stays at home. And what do I use it for mainly? Filming these videos. Hey, well that's just food for thought, and that's a wrap. Burt Rito. Bye.